I know. I've been given 2.5 times the amount of time that, I mean, I can do it if you want, but look, Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to this petition today. This petition regarding the Berrimah Road duplication project is now in actual fact a settled matter. The Treasurer has, as part of his reprioritisation of infrastructure projects, recognised that this particular matter is not a priority. Notwithstanding, it is worth discussing today, and it is worth discussing particularly in the context of what is infrastructure of necessity, because this initiative is indicative of the lack of a cohesive approach to decisions that have been made on infrastructure by the preceding government over a long period of time. And that is why we are dealing with the legacy of ill-conceived ventures such as this. Without delving too deep into it, I will begin, though, by drawing upon the impact statement regarding the proposed duplication, because I think it speaks volumes in its own right. And so, with the permission of the principal of Haileybury Rendell School, Mr. Andrew McGregor, I'm just going to draw out a couple of the key points that were made regarding the particular project. Now, these community advocates, representatives of the school community, had asked the Northern Territory Government to seriously reconsider this development. They'd asked them to do so, or at least to see it cancelled or at the very least suspended for a period of time so that the school and surrounding businesses could be provided certainty regarding whether or not to be able to move forward with a range of things. Now, the impact on the proposed duplication was going to be devastating to the school environment, businesses and 4,000 community members in that area. And they had seen plans that suggested a strip that was going to run almost 800 metres long along that property, of varying widths between 5 and 10 metres, was going to be taken out on the edge of Berrimah Road. Now, there were a number of areas of concern in relation to why this might be a problem, and they're worth recognising in their own right, again, to understand why it is this was ever even on the books. So first of all, there was the strategic planning impact of this particular initiative. Now, the school and its board had considered that no serious consideration had been given to the drastic impact of the proposal, and that equally no form of amelioration or proper compensation had been considered, which is just astonishing. Now, apart from other serious concerns due to the risk of the project, the board had to freeze all of its capital expenditure until all aspects of the duplication matter were resolved, which is really a pretty significant thing for them to have to do. Secondly, they were concerned about the environmental impact, which was significant. Now, those of you who will know the Berrimah Road will know there's an avenue of very big old trees down there, 70 to 80 mature trees and bushes which were going to have to be removed from the property with no opportunity to preserve that land or to replace those trees. Now, that barrier of trees was not just aesthetically pleasing and environmentally friendly, but it also reduced the impact of both air pollution and noise pollution to some 1,300 staff and students that are on that campus. The health risks attendant with that were a whole different set of concerns. The increased air pollution, which would have come with increased truck traffic down that area if you had essentially doubled the width of that road. On the infrastructure impact itself then, okay, well, what was the infrastructure case for it? Why were we doing this? Well, it's difficult to know, and again, the extensive loss of land could have been in the order of 5,000 square metres. Now, as well as destroying vegetation, that encroachment would have decimated the parking and traffic flow arrangements on the site, 8 to 10 buses that would have come on and off the site every day, twice a day, as well as 100 lost car parks, which then there was no strategy to actually replace. And the traffic flow and disruption, just in terms of drop-offs and school pickups, would mean that they would have had to redesign pretty much the entire facility. The cost would have run into the millions. Now, again, safety concerns. What concern was given to safety concerns on this? Now, there have already been vehicle crashes through the fence on that property, close to where students play, close to where families and staff walk, and there was real fear that increased traffic flow in that area would lead to further accidents that would affect the community. And, you know, we have numerous students in that space who also cycle to and from work, and there was no provision for what was going to be done if they lost the external footpath leading up to the school. The impact on teaching and learning of all of this, of course, would have been significant as well. The traffic on Berrimah Road is already noisy and it affects conversations and hearing on that side of the school. And if you brought the roads any closer to the classrooms and removed the natural barrier from the trees, that was going to you were going to see a great increase in noise pollution, which, frankly speaking, the school was right in being able to suggest would affect their core business of teaching and learning. There was a significant case to be made also for the genuine disruption and threat to the school's business model. And I just want to remind you what a significant and important school 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙑𝘼𝙔 School is in terms of a high-performance private school. We don't have a ton of them, and this is an extremely well-performing one. And we are looking at essentially knocking out their ovals, car parks, trees and business model for what? Seriously, for what? That's my question to the House. The financial impact is not insignificant either. 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙑 School alone, as a stakeholder in that space, spent tens of thousands of dollars planning on how to deal with the potential duplication occurring. Now that included legal fees, the cost of traffic engineers, future design costs, and there was never any indication from the time that I've been involved with this that there would be any compensation for these expenses, or that compensation had even been clearly countenanced or calculated. Then you've got the loss of trees, you've got the loss of the roads and the car park and the roadways that need to be replaced. There are all the new internal roads and infrastructure that would be needed. There was also extensive loss of land. And the estimate was that compensation required would run into several millions of dollars in order to simply go ahead with the project. Now, the reason I brought all this up, given that this is a settled matter, is it's a fair question to ask, how on earth did this initiative ever get to this stage? How on earth is it the case that anybody thought it was a good idea in the last government to actually do this duplication? Quite seriously, I'm still, dissatisfied with the answers I've gotten to that question. And part of the reason I entertained debating this tonight is I would welcome a contribution from a member of the former government to at least explain the business case underpinning what was going on there. Or if you can't do that, at least the essential underlying logic. What supported the logic behind the Berrimah Road duplication? Because the key stakeholders in that space, including one of our most significant senior secondary private schools and a ton of businesses up and down that area, couldn't see the logic behind it. And I've given, long and, interesting, in my mind anyway, speeches about the state of infrastructure and some of the poor choices that have been made and some of the utopia-esque folly that we have descended into over a long period of time. And this appears to be one of those particular projects that was just an announceable at a time that seemed to make, very thinly veiled sense. Double the width of the road, it'll be helpful going out to East Arm. But really, I just don't see where the logic was underpinning this project. So I'm here not just to ask, if you like, that the petition be noted, which of course we will formally do, but also for us to generally contemplate why we build infrastructure, where we put it, what is essential, what is enabling, what is vanity nonsense. Now, the Treasurer has had to make some cuts to infrastructure spend, but you remember that a lot of those cuts are just literally wiping nonsense off the books. Things that were announceables with a funding tag attached to them that didn't actually result in anything ever being built or any money being appropriated or allocated to build a lot of these projects. Now, I've said it over and over again, we are not going to go forward in this place on a range of the big issues that we have unless we're able to work cooperatively together on a range of issues. And the fact of the matter is the federal government is not going to listen to us unless we all sing with one voice about what it is we'd like our money for. What do we want to build? Where do we want to build it? Why do we need it? And this, is an opportunity today to reflect on something that, frankly speaking, had no sound business case insofar as I could possibly tell, that had no money really underpinning it, that had no community support, that had zero stakeholder engagement, no consultation done with the relevant parties. And I do think it's important to do meaningful consultation, and I take seriously when the opposition and the crossbenchers ask the government to engage in meaningful consultation, and as a result, I think it's incumbent on you to also recognise that consultation was done very poorly in respect of this particular initiative. Now, as I say, it's a settled matter, and so, great that it's not going ahead. Great that Berrimah Northcrest has the certainty to be able to continue doing good educational work in the place that they operate from. But it's an opportunity for us to accept, together, collectively, this was not a very good idea. And this was indicative of how badly government was running infrastructure. And for all of the potshots that are taken at my learned colleague, the Treasurer, he hasn't wiped infrastructure off the books. He started to wipe nonsense off the books that never had any money attached to it. And with what money we have left, we need to be smarter about what we build, because the return on investment for a lot of these things has been negligible to zero, whereas we could be investing in very smart projects like the one I champion, the Stuart Park High Street, which would have a very fast return on investment for the Territory. So with that, Mr Deputy Speaker, I will conclude my remarks. As I say, I would be grateful for a contribution from the member of the former government to explain the logic underpinning why this initiative, if you can call it that, ever got to this stage. If the opposition chooses not to speak, I'll take it as tacit acknowledgement that we all agree finally that this was a dumb idea, and hopefully we can move forward to making smarter choices on infrastructure as a parliament. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Okay. Minister for Infrastructure and Logistics.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And thank you also for the member for Fong for his input into this quite important petition. And the key stakeholders of this project have made it clear that the Berrimah Road duplication was certainly not something that they supported. And of course, the CLP government have listened. And that's the difference, I suppose, between us and those opposite. Labor didn't listen, and the community paid the price for that. I went out to 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙑𝘼𝙔𝙇𝙄𝙎𝙏 school myself to hear what the concerns were firsthand, and they certainly didn't mince their words, I can tell you. What they raised was serious, thoughtful and valid points. And that wasn't just the management and the principal of 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙍𝙏, these were the students as well. And it was clear the previous government hadn't given them the time nor the respect to properly engage. Local businesses in the area too had simply had enough. They'd endured disruption, delays and detours for nearly 2.5 years, all thanks to the chaos that was the Territory's big over-promised plan from the Labor government. Their lifeline and access to their customers was cut off without warning or proper consultation. Their trade took a massive hit, and their confidence in government planning was certainly shaken, Mr Deputy Speaker. And that is unacceptable. And let me be very clear, that ends now. The CLP government will not stand by and watch Territory businesses become collateral damage from bureaucratic mismanagement. We stand with businesses, Mr Deputy Speaker. We're not in their way. Icons of our Territory community, like Tomo's Pies, rely on predictable traffic, safe access and a government that actually listens. When I advised them this project was off the table, the sense of their relief was absolutely instant. And since then, Mr Deputy Speaker, my office has become a more regular customer of Tomo's Pies, and now it's a ritual for my office in sitting weeks. But this decision wasn't just about meat pies and traffic flows, Mr Deputy Speaker. It was about common sense and, importantly, about listening to communities and businesses bearing the brunt of these impacts. I heard from 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙍𝙏 and neighbouring businesses who were ready to invest their own hard-earned money into infrastructure, into upgrades and development, but couldn't proceed because of the shadow that this project had cast over their plans. The school board, as the member for Fong has said, had capital projects ready to go, but had to freeze all expenditure because of the uncertainty created by this duplication. And this wasn't just inconvenient, Mr Deputy Speaker. It was actively damaging to their ability to grow, to improve their facilities and to plan for their future. The impacts would have gone far beyond inconvenience. They faced potential loss of up to 80 mature trees that aren't just part of the school's identity, but serve a practical purpose in reducing noise and air pollution, cooling the environment and providing a haven for native wildlife. These trees provide essential shelter from hot and dusty winds that often blow across Berrimah Road, and their removal would have been a serious blow to the school's environment and enjoyment. On top of that, Mr Deputy Speaker, there were major concerns around traffic flow, also for parking and pedestrian safety and bus access within the school grounds, all of which would have been compromised had the duplication proceeded, and they would have lost up to 15 to 20 metres of the frontage of the property. And of course, Mr Deputy Speaker, they weren't alone. Other local businesses in the area told us they had development applications sitting in limbo, unable to proceed, unable to invest, unable to improve their own operations because they were waiting on clarity about this road project. The uncertainty was costing them money, it was costing them time, and it was costing them opportunities, and was damaging to the territory economy. And it's not just what's been planned, it's what had already been endured. The school and surrounding businesses have already been forced to work around the drawn-out construction of the Berrimah Road overpass. They've put up with disruption after disruption, and they were rightly frustrated at the thought of more years of chaos and disruption right on their front doors. Their message, Mr Deputy Speaker, to us was loud and clear. They wanted certainty, they wanted action, and they wanted to be treated with respect, and they wanted to be heard. And that's what we did, and that's what we are delivering. This government will not continue the disruption and uncertainty that the previous government inflicted upon them. We talk about being open for business, and unlike the last mob, we actually mean it, Mr Deputy Speaker. The CLP government believes in empowering the private sector, not paralysing it. To the 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙍 community and local businesses, I and this government have heard you. I've stood on your grounds, I've walked your roads, and I certainly understand what is at stake. Your safety, your investment, your environment, your confidence in government, that's what really matters. And today we draw that line in the sand. No more disruption, Mr Deputy Speaker. No more uncertainty. Instead, we are delivering action, certainty and security for those people along that piece of road. We're putting local businesses and communities first where they belong. We are not here to govern from behind a desk. We are out on the ground talking to people, understanding the real impacts of our decisions and what they have on our communities. And when it's clear that something doesn't stack up, we're not afraid to say that and to change course if required. And that's what responsible governments look like, and that's what responsible governments do, Mr Deputy Speaker. Unlike the previous government, who made decisions based on glossy brochures and photo ops, we're focused on outcomes. Real outcomes for real people and real outcomes for business. So to every small business owner, every principal, every community member who felt ignored or sidelined under the previous government, know this. You have a voice, and this government is listening to your voice. We are not in the business of overreach. We are in the business of rebuilding confidence, removing barriers to investment, and getting the territory moving in the right direction. Now we can all move forward together with certainty and focus on real priorities, with a government that works for the community and not against it. And a decision to cease the duplication on Berrimah Road between the Stuart Highway and the new 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙀𝙀 overpass proves that. We looked at what was planned, and this has been sitting on the books for many, many years, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it put business at risk. As I said, it put the future of 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀 School at risk. And we took a good, hard look of what the outcomes for that project would be. And I agree with the member for Fong Lim. Was the project put there for the right reasons, or was it put there for the wrong reason, or was it just another opportunity for a photo op and a glossy press release? It was not going to serve any real purpose for the people and business along that road, and we've made the decision to cease this project going forward, to give that certainty to business, to give that certainty to 𝙍𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀 School, so they can develop their business model and their education model going forward, and businesses along that piece of road can now have the certainty to invest and to grow and to push our economy forward. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Any further speakers? No further speakers. The question is the petition be noted. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it.